What's going on, guys? It's Jake Marrow here with another episode of Initial Thoughts, and today we're going to be taking a look at Tomb Raider. This is the 2013 reboot, which was released on March 5th, 2013 in pretty much everywhere besides Japan, and in Japan it will actually not be released until April 25th, 2013. It was developed by Crystal Dynamics and published by Square Enix on the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, and the PC. Now, before I start to talk about this game, I know I've been gone from pretty much any sort of, gameplay and recording and commentating for like weeks and weeks and weeks. That's just because I've been on vacation and doing a lot of homework and stuff, but spring break is starting to wind down. It's Friday, April 5th today, and then I have to go back to school on Monday the 8th, so only a couple more days, but I'm hoping to upload quite a few videos during that time since I don't really have anything going, and so hopefully I can kind of get back in the back in business in terms of commentating and such. So anyway, Tomb Raider 2013, which I'm gonna title this video Tomb Raider 2013 initial thoughts. Well, initial thoughts Tomb Raider 2013. I'm just gonna call it Tomb Raider though. This is a reboot of the series, so it shares the same name as the original Tomb Raider, which was released way back in the 90s. And Tomb Raider hasn't been doing very great the past few years. It's gotten decent reviews like Lara Croft and the Guardian of Light, I think it was called. It was an Xbox Live Arcade game. It was okay. It was like a third-person, bird's-eye view type camera game. Released on Xbox Live Arcade for I think like $15 or something. That was reviewed pretty good, but most of the normal Tomb Raider games have not been getting great review scores. So a couple years ago, it was announced that Crystal Dynamics was going to be remaking the Tomb Raider series, and I've never played a Tomb Raider game before. Unlike maybe Gears of War or games that I haven't played before but I've heard of. Tomb Raider, I really had never seen anything related to Tomb Raider whatsoever. I just had never heard of it. And although I'd heard the name Tomb Raider, I heard that it was like a game about a girl named Lara Croft. It's a third-person shooter, and you raided tombs. That's pretty much all I knew. So when I decided to pick up Tomb Raider, I almost said 2013. When I decided to pick up Tomb Raider, I got the limited edition, which you probably saw in my unboxing. It actually got some pretty good amount of views, but I wasn't really expecting much. I was expecting an okay game, an okay third-person game with some platforming and stuff. So, I thought I was skeptical. I knew that Crysis 3 had come out, was going to be coming out a couple weeks before, and then Gears of War Judgment was going to be coming out about a week afterwards, which haven't forgot about that game. We'll still be putting up initial thoughts of it. But I really, I didn't know what I was going to get. And when I started playing Tomb Raider, I realized that this is a really, really, really good game. I don't know how I'm going to be able to talk about how much I love this game in these next 20 minutes or so of the gameplay. I just recorded the first hour of the campaign, and then I'm just going to be cutting off whenever I think I'm done with my thoughts. So hopefully you'll enjoy it. I think it's pretty exciting in the very beginning. I don't think I'm going to be able to get to the shooting stuff, but I don't know. Tomb Raider is a really, really fun game. There's not much, besides the multiplayer, which I'll go into in a little while, that I can really say I don't like about this game. So let's just set the stage. This is a reboot, and it's actually an origin story of how Lara Croft became the Tomb Raider that we have seen in all the countless other games, which is pretty cool. She's a lot younger. She's not as much as an adventurer. In the very beginning of the game, at least, she doesn't know what she's doing at all. She's really freaked out. She has no idea what to do, and she's asking advice for everybody else. But at the end of the game, she's like, it's kind of hard to describe, but a natural adventurer, wielding shotguns and AKs and stuff. And you can kind of see that progression throughout the story. There's some missteps that it takes a little bit, I'll get into that in a little while. But for the most part, the story is really good. So she's pretty much with her friends. There's lots of them. There's like Dr. Whitman, Roth, Sam, and of course Laura herself. And they're on the Endurance, which is the ship, and they're searching for Himiko. And that's pretty much like a it's kind of hard to explain, like a sun queen that everybody like worshipped back in the day, and they're trying to find like an island part of the nation of Yamatai. And in the very beginning of the game, you see like a cutscene with kind of what happens, and then you wake up as Laura, and you throughout can kind of look back on flashbacks, which I think I'll probably show one in this gameplay, and you can see that it was Laura's decision to come to this island. They got washed up upon the island. Their ship got destroyed, and throughout the game you start to discover the inhabitants of the island, what their motives are, and how you're actually going to be able to get off this island. I'm not going to spoil anything because the story actually is pretty exciting. Most shooting platforming games don't have the best story, but I actually was really intrigued by it, and it was really, really hard to stop playing it. Like, I think I beat this game. This campaign takes about 10-15 hours to beat. Excuse me, at least on easy setting, which I always play my games on easy, and then I go back on the hard difficulties. But it was really hard to stop playing, and I beat this game really fast within like 4 or 5 days of just straight out playing in the middle of the week, which is a pretty big deal to me because I have school and stuff. But I was hoping to get as much time into this game as possible, and I really, really enjoyed it. It had me on the edge all the time. There was some plot twists that came around, and the character development, although Laura's friends don't get the most character development, a couple of them, like Sam and Dr. Whitman and Roth, I think those probably are the people with the most character development in the entire story. But you're playing as Laura, and this is a story about Laura. The side characters are there to progress the story, but you're going to be caring about them, but not as much about Laura. Like, there are very few games I can see where I was actually caring about what happened to Laura. Now, of course, you're controlling everything, but throughout the story, I was really hoping that they would be able to get off the island, which is something in a first-person shooter I never really thought of before. Like in Call of Duty, the campaign, or Halo in the campaign, you're hoping for them, but you don't have that connection like you do in Tomb Raider, and I think that was really cool. This game has both very, very good gameplay as well as a really great story, a story that you're going to want to keep playing over and over and over again. I've played through the game about 1.5 times, and I don't know, it's just very interesting, and definitely one of the best story games that I really have ever played, actually. And Tomb Raider, definitely, if you saw the episode of The Talk 2 with me and King, we talked about our favorite games of 2012. This, I promise you, will be somewhere on the top 3. Unless Call of Duty just blows me away this fall, this will be on the list sometime. Because I was just really impressed with this game, and I actually was very sad when I beat the campaign. That's something I can rarely ever see. Like in Crisis 3, I'm sorry, campaign was a chore. I did not really like it that much. I'm hoping to continue my Let's Play. I'm not killing it yet, but I don't know. The campaign just felt very linear, not exciting, and just your average first-person shooter. And the story, of course, didn't really help that at all. But in Tomb Raider, I was actually really sad that when I finished the campaign, because then I wouldn't have this exciting like character-driven story or anything like that anymore. Although when you beat it, you're kind of dropping like a sandbox, and you can fast travel around the map and get a bunch of collectibles and still shoot enemies and jump over objects and stuff. I was just pretty disappointed when the story finally came to an end. Not to say that it wasn't good. Like I'm happy that the game eventually came to an end. I was just sad that it did come to an end. It was a good game, but it was so good I was sad that it came to an end, so I wouldn't be able to keep playing it anymore. So story by far, really, really good. So the gameplay of Tomb Raider. Now this is where it gets a little interesting, because it's kind of two games combined. It's a platformer and it's a shooting game. And So in the beginning of the game, lots of platform elements. You jump up objects, you climb stuff like right here. This is a quick time event. You have to like press each trigger rapidly to climb up the mountain, then like jump off to the side. And in the beginning of the game, there are a lot of quick time events, but that really drops off towards the first after the first hour or so. It's completely gone. You may have like one or two, to like open doors and stuff, but if you get turned off by quick time events, like in Battlefield 3, where there's like quick time events all the time, not the case in Tomb Raider. And although there are a lot in the very beginning, I understand why they want to do that. Very exciting, very like trying to explain to you what happens to Laura in the first half hour of the game. So quick time events are very plentiful in the beginning, but they really drop off. And in that first half hour, unfortunately, you don't have a ton of control over what you do. Of course, like right now is really one of the first times I'm truly being able to walk around outside without having to like jump up an object or something. But so the first half hour of the game, although it's not great, you're going to get a lot more character control towards the as you actually get into the heart of the Tomb Raider campaign. But the gameplay, jump up objects, it's kind of your standard stuff. You can jump off, you can jump up like little small jumps. You can climb stuff, cross like trees, like fallen trees. You can zip line, which gets really exciting towards the last third of the game. You get this like upgrade. You can like both climb like up the zip line and down, and it's really fun. There's this one segment of the game with like 5 or 6 different zip lines all over the place. It's really fun. But that's cool, and that's kind of where the jumping, like the vaulting and stuff, kind of drops off with the platforming. And then the combat. Now the combat is actually really fun. Now in a game like Uncharted, where I've been playing that on my PlayStation Vita, and it's fun, but the shooting, I don't know, it doesn't feel like the game was made for shooting. It was made for platforming, and the platforming is by far more fun than the actual shooting. Although it's fun to shoot people, the controls are not great. And of course, I'm not going to judge Uncharted 1 through 3 because I've never played that, but at least on the Vita, with its controls and stuff, it's not bad, but I feel like it was kind of tacked on just to make it a shooting game. Well, the heart of it is just in platforming. That's not what Tomb Raider is. I think it's just a perfect 50-50 split between the platforming as well as the shooting. So, in the beginning, you have nothing except a torch, and you can't really kill anyone. You don't actually kill someone until the first hour of the game, which I'll talk about that because that's a pretty dramatic point of the story. But throughout the game, you'll get a combination of different weapons. You'll get the bow, you'll get an assault rifle, which I think in the beginning is like an old World War I gun, and then I think it turns into an AK, or it's always an AK. I don't really remember. I didn't really use it until towards the last fourth of the game. And then you'll also get a pistol, which you'll use a lot, and a shotgun. And then you'll get upgrades, like you can get flaming arrows for your bow, and then you can get like a different pistol with better upgrades. And the upgrade system, I'll talk about that right now. So throughout the game, you find salvage, where it'll show you a little bit later. Of course, there isn't any salvage right now, but you use that salvage to add upgrades to your gun, and these can be as simple as making your pick more powerful, to putting rapid fire on your pistol with 3-round bursts, extended mags. And then you actually get a new bow, which you can put really cool stuff you can shoot an arrow with a rope on it. It attaches to an object, and then you can zip line through, which is really fun. It's lots of upgrades. Of course, I'm not playing on my save when I'm recording this gameplay, but on my save I have probably about a little more than half of all the upgrades, and there's still a lot to do, and it's really exciting. And I think I'm probably, for the first time, I'm going to go back into a game I've already beat and just play the sandbox mode, because I don't really do that in games a lot. It's not super fun. Once you beat the story, there's not much. It's not as compelling to come back and play. But I'll definitely be looking into that in the future. There's some stealth, which for the most part you're going to be using the bow. And I think the game really wants you to use the bow a lot, at least in the beginning. As the enemies start to get a little bit harder, yeah, you're going to want to pull out that shotgun or that pistol to get a few shots off, but you want to use the bow a lot in stealth-like situations, so, you know, shooting 2 people in the head very fast to not alert anyone else. And then there's also like a melee system where you can like run up to somebody and then press Y and then Laura like chokes them and then they die. But I actually did not really use that at all. Like maybe 10, 15 kills out of like the probably 1,000 that you had people you had to kill throughout the campaign. But I never really used it that much. This is not a melee game, although you can unlock like a character upgrade a little bit later in the game that you can like melee them with your like pickaxe. It's not something that you're gonna want to do like in Call of Duty. You can like run up to someone and then like instantly knife them. That is not how Tomb Raider works. You're gonna be wanting to use your weapon a lot, and then also character upgrades. We'll talk about that. So as you do anything like salvage, like pickpocket a dead enemy, you can get like ammo back as well as experience. And then you can also get experience through like completing mission objectives and killing deer and stuff and completing challenges. And then you can use that XP for character upgrades, and these are in lots of different areas. There's like hunter, survivalist, and there's something else. Can't remember the third one. You don't unlock it for a little while. I think it's like attacker or something. I don't know. But you can use that to unlock character like upgrades that will be effective throughout the game. So these can be like, when you get like a salvage box, you'll actually get more salvage to being able to withstand more hits and stuff like that. And it's definitely necessary as you go through the campaign. Now, none of these things that you unlock are ever going to matter in the game. Like, technically, if you're really good, you can never spend these and still play through the campaign, but they'll give you an advantage, you know what I mean? It'll be a little bit easier to, excuse me, it's still a little bit of a cold, to play a little bit easier. And then it's pretty cool how you do it, because everything is a patch. And then I actually got 3 patches in the collector's edition, but everything is a patch, which is really cool because it like shows you what it does. It's kind of like a symbol. And then the way you actually apply these character upgrades as well as weapon upgrades to Lara is you actually have to go to campsites. Now these are small like fires in specific areas around the map. But you go there, and then she can actually start writing in her journal, which it'll progress throughout the length of the game. I don't know how it would work if you never went to a camp, if she would still write it. I don't think she would. But I don't know if she would like miss something. I don't really know how it would work if you didn't want to do that. But I didn't try or anything. But that's how you unlock specific upgrades through salvage and experience. I have to say, it was okay having to go to the campfires because they're so close together. You're probably gonna see one every 20 minutes or so. So it's not gonna be like you only see 3 throughout the entire game. They're pretty plentiful. Like the entire map, although I didn't bring it up while I was playing through recording gameplay. You can see like a map, and then everything around the map is split up into different like sections. And then within that section, there's a specific amount of collectibles, and then there's a campfire, and then enemies, and a certain area to the story, at least when you're playing in story mode. And then that's how you go to them after you finish the game, like the sandbox mode. So it's cool how that works, and you can kind of see the trail. So there's like a line, and then you can like see where you went and stuff. And for the most part, towards the end, you're gonna get around most of the island. Although there's one part like one side of the island you like never really go over to that much, which is alright because the map is pretty massive. But this is not a free roam game. This is like it's kind of free roam, but it's still very story connected. So although I could kind of relate it to Crisis a little bit. Like, you're in a world which is reasonably open, but you want to do what the game, you're still going where the developers wanted you to. So it's not like GTA where you do like quests, or in Skyrim where it's just like this super large map, and then you do specific areas in different places, then you go back and forth and back and forth. You're in the same area, just doing objectives, just going all the way through, and then you can go back at the very end and get all the collectibles and play in that area again. Like, right here you'll see there's some areas, like, there's a tree with, like, rope around it, and that I actually can't use until I get that that bow upgrade I was talking about, a little bit later in the game, so you want to go back, and that'll probably get you to a collectibles or something. And collectibles are pretty cool. So you've got a couple different things. First, you've got journals, so they can be from really any character, whether they be part of your main group from the Endurance, and then the other survivors that are on the map that are also there. And then you can also get like these small objects, like historical things that Lara, like once you click on them, she talks about them, and you can actually spin the object, and your controller vibrates, and then once you get to a specific part of the object, you'll learn a little bit more about it, and that's pretty cool. And then there's different like XP boxes scattered around, and of course salvage and ammo and a bunch of different pickups. So each of the maps have lots of different things that you're going to want to go back towards the end of the game. Enemy types, there's not a ton of different enemies, but there are some pretty cool ones. Like, there's just the normal foot soldier, and then there's some where you actually have to like dodge around an enemy with like a shield and shoot them from behind, and that's pretty cool. It adds up a little bit of variety, as well as there's a couple boss battles throughout the game. It's going to keep you entertained. Right there to the left of the screen, that's the rope, and I can't do that right now, and that I'm going to go back and play it again. So that's gameplay. Next, probably right before we go into the multiplayer component, we'll talk about graphics. And I really don't think this late in the Xbox 360's lifespan, I don't think it's really worth talking about the graphics all that much, because really no game is going to look especially great. I think Halo 4, anything past like Halo 4 or Forza Horizon in each of their respective genres, and of course Crysis 3 obviously, you're not going to get too much further than that. Although there's some that look pretty good, there's others that just don't look as good. But Tomb Raider, I think, kind of falls in the very middle. Some areas look great, other times they just don't look very good. So whenever it's very light outside and there's like shadows and foresty areas, the game looks amazing. Like, it's great. Then when you're in the caves and stuff, the game looks a little worse. The shadows aren't really there, and there's lots of blocky textures. But I would give it a reasonably good for graphics, at least on an Xbox 360. Now on the PC, if you've seen gameplay of that, the game can look absolutely beautiful. Some technology that they associated into the PC version is Lara's hair. They have this new like hair technology where instead of, as you can see on the Xbox 360 version, her ponytail is just one strand, like it waves in the wind and stuff. But on the PC, it's actually divided into lots of different strands of hair, which can make it look a little weird, but it makes it a lot better. But of course, it's not present on the Xbox 360. But the grass and trees and stuff, when that happens, it looks very good, as well as the fire effects look pretty good as well. So I would say if you're looking for a game that looks pretty good, I would go with Tomb Raider. If you're someone who just buys games based on graphics, which I really don't think I would do that if I were you. But, so, I'd say the graphics were pretty good. Too average, and sometimes it looks a little bit better than other times. It runs at 30 FPS, like right here when she's using her walkie-talkie. The textures on that is just terrible, it's really blocky and stuff. But the environment looks alright, and her character model is pretty good. There are, like, cutscenes that are rendered in-game, as well as rendered out of the game. Like in the very beginning, that cutscene was, of course, not rendered in-game. There's somewhere it is, and the cutscenes in the game look pretty good, actually. When you get close to like her face, the face at least in the cutscenes, is pretty good. But when you're actually playing the game, it's a little bit worse. But I'd say the graphics in Tomb Raider are better than average, but it's not going to blow you away in any way, shape, or form. So that's pretty much the campaign of Tomb Raider. The single-player element, which completely blew me away. One of the best experiences that I've ever had. When I was playing this game, I kept thinking, this is why I love video games. I play video games to play games like this. I would say that this is one of the best, if not the best, single-player games I've ever played on the Xbox 360. And coming out of that into the multiplayer, I was like, great, the multiplayer is going to be really fun too, getting some really cool third-person combat, which really, besides Gears of War and Transformers, as well as a little bit of Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Future Soldier, I really haven't played that many great third-person shooter combat games. But Tomb Raider's multiplayer, it's very unfortunate because it had some pretty good potential, is not good at all. It's really hard to explain just how bad it is. So, once you're done with the single player campaign, you can go into the open sandbox mode, and then you can go to multiplayer. Now, the multiplayer is kind of your standard team deathmatch objective games. You've got your weapons, like your primary, your secondary, and then your like weapon classes and stuff that you can look at. You can customize like your attachments and stuff. I think there are perks in a small way, shape, or form, but nothing too great. Like the upgrades are alright. I got a Hitman Absolution DLC. I don't know if that was. I think that was just for getting the limited edition. But you got some exclusive weapons, which I actually really enjoyed. When I was playing the multiplayer, the limited time I was playing it, I only played it for like an hour. I used those weapons, and they're really good. But in terms of the gameplay, I don't know. It just does not work as a multiplayer element. So first of all, at least in the game modes I played, there's no minimap, which is really, really bad because you cannot see where anyone is, and you have no idea where to go. And the maps are not great either. They've got some very, very tall areas as well as some very, very low areas. So that really turns into a guy sitting up in the cliff with either a sniper rifle or the bow, just sniping people. You have no idea where he is, so you're just running around trying to get a kill. And you just can't find him at all. And then what makes it worse is that the reticle, at least the assault rifle that I use, expanded so much that it was actually easier for me to just take out the pistol with its like fixed iron sight and just take him out that way instead of using my assault rifle. So I actually got more kills with my pistol than my actual primary weapon. And then the way your character runs around, because there's so many places for him to like jump up and stuff, he actually, when you're not firing the gun, he puts the gun away, which doesn't make any sense. So pretty much half the time you're just running around with like just bare hands, and then you have to pull out your assault rifle and start shooting people, which looks absolutely terrible. And then it kind of gets rid of all that platforming stuff. Like you can jump off and stuff, but half the part that made the game so good, the single player, is completely absent from multiplayer. There's no special like effects, and although I think there could be some zip lines, there's not going to be any of that like special bow stuff, because you can use the bow, but it's not everybody's going to use the bow, so they can't have sections of the map that only the bow people can use. And then the melee, of course, it's not good at all. And the game modes are nothing special at all, unfortunately. Like team deathmatch, capture the flag, capture the base. I think there could be a free-for-all game mode. Don't quote me on that. And then you can use the character models from the game. So the enemy side, you've got the natives, and then the normal friendly side, I guess you could say. You've got Laura and her team. Laura you can unlock, but you get her at the highest level, which I do not think I will get to that at all. And you unlock experience, which you can use for weapon upgrades and stuff, but there's really not that much. There's maybe 3, 4, 5 attachments per gun, which really is not that much coming from a game like Call of Duty, where there's 10, 11, 12 different attachments for every gun. It's really a little disappointing. And that's what multiplayer is, disappointing. I was hoping for it to, be something to keep bringing me back to the game, giving it more life, being able to recommend it to my friends, saying, okay, cool, let's play some multiplayer. Instead, I have to say, okay, you can get this game, to my friends, you can get this game, but you're not going to be able to play multiplayer at all, and we're not going to be able to play together, because the single player has, of course, no, multiplayer capability, since it's a single player game. So you're really going to be playing it alone, and I like playing games with friends, so I was hoping that the single player would be good. But the multiplayer would be good, but it's not. And I wish that there was some sort of, multiplayer, single player, so co-op game modes, which, although that's not really in any game besides Halo and Gears of War, I was kind of still hoping that you could do that, but alas, you can't do that, and you're going to be going into this game alone. So I think for a game that you're going to be wanting to play with friends a lot, Tomb Raider probably isn't that game. It's kind of a game you're just going to be wanting to play alone. Of course, you can play multiplayer with friends, but to me at least, it's not really fun whatsoever. So that's pretty much the multiplayer, and I'm just going to get into my final thoughts of Tomb Raider and my consensus about it and who I think should pick it up. So I think for somebody who loves third-person shooters, I think you should definitely look into this game. Although the combat doesn't take up a ton of it, you're going to be getting some really, at least in the single player, some really solid controls and weapons. Although, of course, there's not a lot of weapons. It's just a lot of fun. And then for platforming fans, I think you should definitely look into this game as well. Of course, you're not going to be like climbing stuff as much as Uncharted Golden Abyss. You're going to be riding down zip lines and just going to lots of different locations. You never really double back to anywhere besides a couple environments, but they're modified. They're like different than the last time you went there. So it's really cool. The environments are great, and for somebody who loves single player, like story-driven games, this is going to be a treat. This is going to be a really fun game. But for somebody who loves third-person multiplayer games, it's not going to be great. At least in my opinion. I just don't think you're going to be that impressed with Tomb Raider. And maybe since Crystal Dynamics has announced there's probably going to be another one, since this game sold quite a bit, although I don't think it actually met Square Enix's expectations with sales, which is pretty disappointing because this is a really good game. But if there's a sequel, I think that they should go back and don't completely abandon the multiplayer, because there is something there, and I think it could really progress into something fun, like, you know, an Uncharted 3 for the Xbox 360, which we really don't have like a third-person game besides Gears of War that's good with multiplayer, except Gears of War is really different, of course, than most your average shooter. But I think talking to the developers here, don't abandon it. Continue to progress it. Listen to what the community wants, and tweak it. Add a mini map and get rid of like overpowered snipers for the sequel. And it could really be fun, but for right now, it's not really worth your time. It was announced that the only DLC coming for this game will be multiplayer, so maps pretty much, which is really disappointing because I was hoping for there to be some story-driven DLC, because of course I was sad when the story ended of this game, but alas, I'm not going to be spending any money on DLC for this game. So that's pretty much my initial thoughts of this game. If you like this video, please thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys later. Peace out, and you'll never find out what's at the gate. It's a secret. You'll never know.